In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome in. And if you're one of our many regular viewers, welcome back. We've assembled a full complement of panelists for this episode to include Julie Newton, a financial advisor with Market Advisory Group. We've also got Tiffany Rayer, a tax specialist with Market Tax Services. Trey, Basa, advisor with Market Medicare Advisors. And Gerald Eidelman, the lead attorney at Eidelman Law Firm. Julie, you were telling me a little bit before we went on air about a couple that came to Market Advisory Group earlier, specifically because they had several issues that required the entire team. Tell us a little more about their situation.
Well, in their particular situation, first of all, they had been longtime viewers of Eye on Retirement, just kind of lurking in the shadows, if you will. And they wanted to kind of experience a little bit of that because they discovered they had several situations that needed to be addressed for them. And so they called the office, made an appointment. Their particular situation is that they are 64, well, Robert's 64, George is a little younger, but they are approaching retirement and Medicare in early 2024, and they wanted to find out a few things about that, so they called and scheduled an appointment.
Now, from a spousal standpoint, he had what you were saying earlier is a bunch of pre-tax accounts that he wanted to pass along to Georgia as beneficiary if he were to pass first, but you were saying there was a more pressing matter that had to be addressed first.
Correct. So as it turned out, Robert had an older son who had wanted to purchase a home, but he didn't have the funds and the credit to do so. And so Robert had purchased the home for him. So not only was the mortgage only in Robert's name, it was also the deed to the property was only in Robert's name. And so the concern was, what if something happened to Robert? What would happen to that home?
Now, in most cases, the mortgage is in both spouses' names, so it's not a problem, but this wasn't the case for Robert and Georgia. What was the first step to address the issue?
Well, the first step that we took was to actually set him down with Gerald, our estate planning attorney, and have that conversation about what's going to happen if something happens to Robert and that home or his son's home is solely in Robert's name.
Gerald Eidelman, Eidelman Law Firm. Do you run into situations like this often where a parent has taken out a mortgage on a home, the deed is in their name even though it's their adult child's home? How do you handle a situation like that?
It's not a common situation. I don't think most parents want to stick out their necks. But one of the things that you have to look at in a situation like this is what happens. There's many different aspects to what happens if Robert passes away. He's got 3 children and a wife, and if he didn't have a estate plan in place, which meant that when he passed away, everything was going to go to half to his children, half to his spouse. That would have included the house. So it's a significant problem here. Now, as far as the mortgage being in his name, it's not a big deal because you can deed your home or bequeath your home in your will to somebody else, and they can take over the mortgage. It will still remain in your name, but they can keep paying on it. So that's not a real problem. But the problem is that you also have to look at what happens if Robert needs Medicaid, because that is another possibility. Now the house is in Robert's name. He requires Medicaid, and when he goes to apply, they look and he's got this house, which is really not his because he hasn't paid for it, but now it counts against his it counts for his assets, which means that it might be spent down in the process of applying for Medicaid.
So is this an example where a Medicaid trust would come into play?
That it would not be a bad idea in a case like this, because Robert won't be able to just simply deed the home to his son. The mortgage company would have issues with it usually. So putting the house in a Medicaid asset protection trust makes it so that the home will, after 5 years, be protected and basically invisible to Medicaid as far as an asset available to Robert.
So, and in a situation like this, without a Medicaid trust, if Medicaid did come into play, do they literally make you spend down all your assets?
Yeah, well, part of it depends on whether he's single at the time he's applying for Medicaid or is married. But we know for sure that this is a second home, it's not their own home. So if he's still married, that particular piece of property is not protected. And so that will be treated as being his, and whatever equity he's got on the house, then it would be considered his, and he would have to spend that money down to a certain level in order to be able to be first qualify for Medicaid.
Well, it sounds like you found a plan that would work for both Robert and Georgia.
Absolutely, yes.
Julie, how often do you handle estate planning needs first in a retirement consultation?
Well, it happens more often than you would think. So, a lot of people put off that end-of-life conversation as long as they can. None of us want to think about that at all. And so, we put it off, and then we're in a situation like Robert's in, and we have to address that conversation. And so it's super important to make sure that we're talking to the right people, we're getting those estate plans put together before something happens, because if Robert were to pass away, it's too late. There's nothing we can do.
Do you find more often than not when people are coming to an initial consultation with you, yes, they want to talk to you, but yes, also they want to employ the whole team?
Frequently, they want to employ the whole team. I struggle to think of anyone who comes in for just one piece of advice, but as an advisor, it's up to us, or I should say as fiduciary advisors, it's up to us to analyze that particular situation and make sure that we are doing what is best for them, making sure they're getting the right advice that they need initially, rather than just jumping into that financial plan.
Complete retirement planning requires a complete team, from the financial aspects to estate planning, tax planning, and Medicare advising. And it works a lot better if that whole team is under the same roof, which is exactly what we do at Market Advisory Group. If you don't have a whole team looking out for your best interests in retirement, what could you be missing? If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation with our team, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. Again, 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be back with more of the show right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. In this show, we're visiting about Robert and Georgia. And Robert had several issues to address due to his health. After a conversation with Gerald Eidelman from Eidelman Law Firm, they were able to set up their estate documents. And we were talking, it's a rather unique situation that the client wanted to come in on a first meeting and address the estate planning, and with the help of Gerald Eidelman, you were able to get that all squared away. So what was next in the process?
So the next part of the process was the health insurance. So in this particular case, as I said, Robert was 64. He'd be turning 65 early 2024. He was also going to be retiring at that point, and so he wanted to make sure he had all the health insurance needs in place. He was in a really bad accident a few years ago. And through that whole process, Robert and Georgia spent a lot of time on the phone talking to, insurance providers, medical providers. And so there was all of this advocating that they had to do, and they ended up with a lot of costly bills. And so they wanted to make sure nothing like that would happen, or at least they knew what to be prepared for.
Now, when we're talking about being an advocate with medical providers, that's something our team at Market Medicare Advisors does every day.
Yeah, we do. It's something that we focus on a lot because, it's not so much as selling someone a policy and here you go, you're on your own. There's always going to be questions. There's always going to be times because when you're in that major medical situation, you're not thinking about what's going on in the background with insurance and providers and stuff. And then lo and behold, you get this big snowball effect and suddenly you have all these people wanting their money now. So it's really important to have that assistance throughout the process so those kinds of things don't happen as much.
Trey, Basa with Market Medicare Advisors, you met with Georgia and Robert. How were you able to reassure them about their future healthcare needs?
Whenever they first came in to discuss those needs, it's always an individual process. So Robert and Georgia, they will have their own needs for Medicare, but Robert in question is turning 65 and moving to Medicare, and he approached me saying, we're doing okay. The only thing that we really need to focus on right now is moving to Medicare, and I've heard of all of these wonderful things about Medicare Advantage plans. Well, yeah, Robert, Medicare Advantage plans are really great. Let's get a whole picture idea before we move into some recommendations, we move into quotes. That accident Julie brought up made a substantial impact on Robert's daily living. And here's why. He was prescribed a narcotic for pain management, and he takes that every day. When you start on a Medicare Advantage plan, you have that prescription drug plan built into it, and you'll get some help with that narcotic. But moving down the line, you have maximum out of pockets, you have co-payments for this, that, and the other. Whereas if he wanted to go to a Medicare supplement plan, he has a premium that he pays every month, and he knows that he's covered for both medical and hospital. He wouldn't be able to switch as easily because he has that prescription for that narcotic. On top of a number of other things, the narcotic, high blood pressure, diabetes makes it really, really difficult to switch over from a Medicare Advantage plan to a supplement plan when we go through underwriting.
So the process of selecting a supplement is a lot more than, I like this one. You basically have to qualify?
Yes. When we start on a Medicare Advantage plan, you have to medically qualify when we're switching over to a supplement plan. Now, if you start with a supplement plan, you do have the opportunity to try out a Medicare Advantage plan for less than 12 months, but then if you want to switch back, you have to go back to the exact same plan, and you won't have to go through underwriting.
Now, you bring up that underwriting term a lot throughout the course of our shows. Is underwriting different from different providers?
On every application, underwriting is going to be determined by a list of questions that are going to ask, what is your health history? What kind of things have you been seeing the doctor for? What have you had prescribed, et cetera, et cetera. Underwriting is the process of asking those questions to see if you even qualify for another insurance company's policies. When looking at Robert's health history and his current list of prescriptions, starting off on a Medicare Advantage plan would not be advised because it would be difficult to switch to a supplement plan. And that's what we do is we look at an individual case and we examine all of the facts and we come to a recommendation of whether or not an Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement plan would be the best fit. But ultimately, it is up to them. It is their decision. It is their health care.
And as opposed to one of the many toll-free numbers you see thrown out on television sets with famous faces trying to sell Medicare, these people are actually sitting down with you over the course of 1 or 2 meetings and honing in on a plan that's going to be the most effective and beneficial for them.
It is a face-to-face interaction. We do a lot of fact-finding to make sure we understand the complete story. So we are guiding them to the best fit for them.
Complete retirement planning, and all under one roof for your convenience. Whether it's the assistance in finding the proper Medicare planning, making sure that your estate is in order, or financial planning, or planning for taxes as well. At Market Advisory Group, we provide that holistic approach to retirement planning. And if you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, our operators are standing by right now at 316-252-8707 to take your call and schedule that complimentary consultation. Also, be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be back to wrap up the show right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome into the final segment of this episode of Eye on Retirement. Before the break, we were discussing Robert and Georgia and how comforting it was for them to know that Market Medicare Advisors would advocate for them when it comes to health care. What other areas was the team able to assist with their concerns, Julie?
So the next problem that we had to have the conversation about was taxation, because they have very large pre-tax accounts, and that could cause them a lot of unexpected taxation pain in retirement. So we wanted to take care of that first and have those conversations.
You know, that's a common concern whenever we're meeting with people as far as taxation goes. Were you able to use Market Advisory Group's new planning tool?
You know, that new planning tool is pretty awesome. You just go to our website, marketadvisorygroup.com, you click on taxes, and then you're able to add a few pieces of information such as age, the value of all your pre-tax accounts, as well as your current tax rate and a few other things. You hit calculate, and then it gives you a nice estimate of what you might expect taxation-wise in retirement. But that's not just enough, because as I said, that's just an estimate. So we want to make sure that we bring in someone like Tiffany to address it as well.
Well, Ms. Tiffany, what was the first step in helping Georgia and Robert gain an understanding of their tax situation?
Well, I have to commend them, because they came in at a really pivotal time in their life where there was a lot of unforeseeable increasing medical expenses, and but they are right at the time also where Robert still has considerable income, as well as a pretty generous bonus structure through his work. So right now, at this time, what we could potentially avoid right now is we could do a in-service rollover with his 401k through his employer. And what that does is it doesn't create a taxable situation, because both are qualified plans. So we can minimize some of the
possible tax.
Yes, and also gives you flexibility in those withdrawals going forward.
Now, there's specific rules for those in-service distributions, though, correct?
Yes, you have to be at least 59.5, which he meets that requirement. As well as you really need to look over your employer plan to see how much of the best of the amount that they allow. It would be nice. I mean, 100% is sometimes available, but we've also seen 50 to 80% of that vested amount being able to roll over. So I'm really glad that they came in when they did, so that we could help them with that.
Very good. Julie, do the people you meet with know about in-service distributions? It seems like everybody would be doing that if they did.
You know, that's true. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't aware of it. The reality is that the person who is in charge, or who knows that with an employer, is usually busy helping folks sign up for 401k plans and other kinds of benefits. So they don't really have that opportunity to sit down with someone and say, hey, you're over 59.5, you know, you can go ahead and do that rollover. So a lot of times that gets overlooked for folks.
Why would someone want to consider an in-service distribution or rollover? I mean, employer plans have a variety of investment options, including stable choices. So what would be the advantage?
So the advantage is, by and large, control. When you are in those employer plans, you are at the mercy of whatever that plan has in terms of investments. So yes, there are those staple value kinds of investments, but then there's also a very limited number of investment choices, and most of those choices are going to expose you to the stock market. And so that's where right now people really don't want to be in those kinds of investments with those direct exposures. So whenever you have that opportunity to move that money out, again, like Tiffany said, you've reached 59.5 and your employer plan allows it, then you can get that money moved out to the investment choice of yours. And it gives you not only the control, but then you can kind of take a look at, am I actually protecting my investments? Am I still at the mercy of the stock market? Am I doing what's best for me?
I think a lot of people are probably confused by the fact that they think, well, if I roll out of my employer's 401k plan, then I can't contribute anymore. And that's not the case.
No, that is not the case. We have folks who do that in-service rollover all the time. they go ahead and move 100% out, again, if they can, but then they sit there and continue to contribute. They don't change those contribution levels at all. In some cases, with some employer plans, you can actually roll it out as often as you want. I've seen it allowed quarterly. Some only allow annually. So there are the rules. You need to be familiar with what your employer plan allows, but you do have a lot of options.
And also, if they don't, perhaps they want to stay participating in that plan, so they don't have to roll the entire thing. Right. They could take a portion of that and put it into a more protected status, if you will.
That's correct. That's correct. Anything that they choose that will give them that level of protection rather than, entirely exposed. Some people who are moving into retirement are still a little more risk tolerant. They're okay with those market volatility options out there. And so some folks absolutely will want to leave some of that in their 401k so they have a little more risk, a little more option, but they also want to make sure that that nest egg is protected. So they want to get some of that out of there because let's face it, they've worked really hard for these assets. They've scrimped, they've saved and shoved that money into those pre-tax accounts. And so they want to make sure they're doing the best they can for a chunk of that because nobody wants to run out of money in retirement.
A whole team looking out for your best interest in retirement and retirement planning. That's what we do at Market Advisory Group, from the financial aspects to tax planning, estate planning, and Medicare advising. And we do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. And again, please be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. I'm Rick Everett, and on behalf of the entire panel, we're reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. All rights reserved.